Hello, guys. I'm Sudarshan, a Starshine Star. How are all of you doing this beautiful Sunday evening? It is April 12th, 2026. I really have been wanting to publish so many podcasts and share so much with all of you. I've just been very busy, and anyway, let me say that if you've never listened to my podcast before, I have a YouTube channel called It's the Dazzling of the Light. Or you can just go to YouTube and type in at Sudarshan, a Starshine Star, to access my, I don't know, I think is it getting close to 330 podcast clips I have there? I think so. I have a playlist, a couple of playlists, and one of them is very short with a couple of actual videos of me speaking. So if you want to see that, you can check that out. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening to this on any of my other social medias, give it a thumbs up, heart it, like it, share it, get notified, join my channels, all that good stuff. I really appreciate you because I've been, like many of you, I'm sure, if you speak the truth and you try to put it out on social medias, have been very censored. But luckily, we're in the changing time. So anyway, I like to begin all of my clips with the 3 opening prayers, which are very short, and they're in Sanskrit and Telugu. Before I do that, I command on the sacred blood of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, to flow over all of us, and all of our human beloveds and all of our animal beloveds. I command that Jesus the Christ cast out all satanics and all satanic attachments, cast out all demonics and all demonic attachments, cast out the spirit of pain, cast out the spirit of fear, cast out the spirit of lack, poverty, neediness, never having enough, scarcity. Cast out all mental illness, all confusion, fogginess, negative error think, lack of clarity. Cast out all self-rejection, self-dislike, self-hatred, and the projection of that onto anyone or anything else, as well as the reception of that from anyone or anything else. Cast out all negativity in thought, word, and deed, please, Yeshua. Cast out all negative memories. Cast out all negative karmas. Thank you. Please send your healing presence now. Thank you. Please heal the wounds in our souls. Yeshua, we receive your healing presence, your blessings, and your divine protection. Amen. Svaha. I command on the eternal presence of Mother Mary to be with all of us here in this eternal moment with her beautiful, unconditionally loving, embracing mother's arms and heart, as well as the fierce protective side of her that guides us, instructs us, teaches us, and corrects us to keep us on the right path like any good mother. Thank you so much, Yeshua and Mother Mary. Amen. Svaha. And now to the prayers. Om, Om, Om. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshvaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmahi Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Suklam Parataram Vishnum Sishivarnam Chatobhujam Prasanavaranam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashantaye. Om Bhur Bhuva Suvaha Tatsavitur Varanyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Excellent. I do these prayers to bless, uplift, purify, and protect you, me, and this clip. So let's go. I'm going to call this clip, I'm going to call it Chaos Was the Strategy, Iran Blockade and NATO. It is a little bit of a challenge to try to squish all these subjects into a short podcast description line, but there we go. I'm going to start this off with the wonderful Dr. Steve Turley, something from him. And here we go. we are now getting a front row. Oh, what I wanted to say, listener, was this was from a few days ago. I want to give a little bit of a foundation here before we get into what I'm sure most of you are aware of what just transpired today, but I want to lay a little bit of a foundation for it, okay? So here we go. I tried to change the verb tenses to match the present day, but some of the things, as you know, happened a few days ago, so that's how it is. Okay. We are now getting a front row seat on Trump's astonishingly brilliant strategy behind the ceasefire, and it's playing out in real time. Something extraordinary is happening inside the Islamic Republic of Iran right now, and almost nobody in the legacy media understands it. In fact, what's being called a failed ceasefire, or what's being called confusion, or what's being called chaos, is actually, I want you to hear this, very carefully deliberate. The chaos is the strategy. And once you understand that, everything Trump is doing makes perfect sense. This is a master class in geopolitical strategy, and we're going to see how Trump is publicly humiliating NATO and causing our so-called European allies to absolutely panic. And listener, more on NATO later. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Okay, regarding Vice President J.D. Vance leading the U.S. delegation in high-stakes peace talks with Iran in Islamabad, Pakistan. It was the highest level direct engagement between the United States and Iran since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Vance was joined by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, while Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi are expected to lead Tehran's side. This Iranian delegation is actually begging a larger question. Who, in fact, is actually leading Iran? One of the things clear regarding ceasefire is that there is no actual ceasefire, not in the conventional formal sense. Iran continued to launch missiles at both Israel and the Gulf states since the supposed ceasefire began, because Iran no longer has an actual functioning government. They're putting on the face of a functioning government with these talks with their delegation. But the reality is that the regime is now visibly splitting along fault lines that have been building for years. So, listener, it's a fragmented leadership that's unable to act cohesively, and you'll see why that was Trump's strategy. And the fracture is actually accelerating faster than anyone predicted. According to multiple regional intelligence sources, more than 50 senior Iranian officials, commanders, strategic advisors, the backbone of the inner circle, have been eliminated across a series of coordinated precision operations, and those who remain, they've stopped meeting in large groups together. They've tightened communications. They've largely siloed off their communications into splinter groups. And it's because they're terrified of strikes. And again, this siloing, this fracturing of the leadership was very deliberate on the part of Trump and the Israeli forces. The organizational backbone of the Islamic Republic has been dramatically thinned. And now the regime that once spoke with one terrifying voice is speaking with many fractured, contradictory, competing voices. Remember, we've been talking about the so-called Mosaic Doctrine. It's a decentralized defense doctrine that allows the IRGC to split up into 31 largely independent regiments in the case that their top leadership gets wiped out. So the Mosaic gives provincial commanders the authority to act autonomously without waiting for Tehran's approval. But its Achilles heel, as we're seeing, is that it's nearly impossible for them to act in a unified and coordinated manner, since so much of their command and control and communications capabilities have been wiped out. So that's why we're seeing these very sporadic, contradictory messages and launches and the like. There isn't a single government running things in Iran. The regime has been splintered into various factions. Trump is not negotiating with Iran, quote, unquote. He's not negotiating with a single regime. He's negotiating with one of the larger factions, right? There are lots of factions. Some estimate there are 31 factions. Some estimate there are 24. And of course, not all of them want peace. Not all of them even want to negotiate. Again, that begs the question, what is Trump actually doing here then with this ceasefire? Bottom line, Trump is effectively pitting these factions against each other, full stop. He's making competing offers of money, power, and security to different factions and watching what happens next. Because here's the game. If one faction betrays another, they take care of the bad actor for Trump without a single American bomb being dropped. And if they don't take care of it, Trump will randomly target them again and blame them all as if there's still one unified government, which will, of course, only serve to infuriate them and cause them to turn on each other precisely because there is no longer a control or a central authority to prevent that internal war. It's absolutely brilliant. So, on one side, if we were to just create, like, say, two sides here, on one side, you got the diplomatic establishment. They're led by President Pezeshkian, who wants to deal. They want to end this thing. They want to establish diplomatic relations with the United States and the regional Gulf countries. But they're being thwarted by another side, the more hardline IRGC factions, who are giving 72-hour ultimatums for the diplomatic faction to retract any and all proposals for peace. They're calling those who want a diplomatic resolution, quote, collaborators with the enemy, end quote. They're collaborators with the Zionists, and they're threatening to eliminate them, right? This is one faction of the Iranian government threatening to destroy another faction of the Iranian government without the United States or Israel having to drop a single bomb. The factions are turning on each other in real time, publicly. And so for those who think this is chaos, it isn't. What we're watching is actually very controlled, very deliberate, very engineered disintegration of a 47-year-old theocratic regime. Faction by faction, commander by commander, institution by institution. And it's not just Iran. NATO is next. Our supposed European allies are the next ones in Trump's crosshairs. And you're not going to believe what he has planned for them. The NATO alliance, which the New York Times embarrassingly called the North American Treaty Organization, oh my, fake news never fails to disappoint. It's staring at one of the biggest cracks in its history. And one single statement from NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has sent shock waves across European capitals. After meeting with President Trump at the White House, Rutte went on CNN and confirmed what everybody already suspected. Trump is clearly disappointed with several NATO allies for their failure to support the United States during the Iran conflict. And Rutte agreed. Trump made it absolutely clear that it is the United States and the United States alone that will ultimately determine the future of NATO. Not Spain, not France, certainly not the UK. The United States. And now the United States is calling out the utter and complete hypocrisy of a number of member nations. Remember, the British needed us for the Falklands, right? They couldn't defend those islands alone. The French needed us in Chad. We rebuilt Western Europe after 2 world wars that they started on their own soil. And then, when we asked for our overflight rights to finish a campaign that directly defends their energy supply and their security, those countries said no. They said no. But there's something far more embarrassing than just their hypocrisy. President Trump is calling this out. It's not just that Europe won't help. It's that Europe literally can't help. I mean, look at the data. The population of Europe is 450 million, 100 million more people than America. It's got a 22 trillion GDP, the third largest economic bloc on the planet. And yet, despite that, Europe can't field a credible independent military force. A population nearly 500 million people, a $20 trillion economy, and they're perhaps the single most limp-wristed weaklings on the planet. Why? Victor Davis Hanson was talking about this the other day. Because Europe chose utopia over capability. They chose the life of a luxury welfare state over war preparedness. And they did it smugly as well. Their fertility rates have cratered. They're down to an average of just 1.3 children per woman, way below the 2.1 replacement level. They're literally disappearing from the face of the earth. They went all in on wind and solar and gutted their energy independence. They went full Greta Thunberg, leaving them begging Russia for natural gas, all the while simultaneously asking us to defend them from Russia. They hollowed out their militaries. They let in millions upon millions of so-called refugees from the Middle East and Northern Africa, from regions deeply hostile to Western values. And now their government are terrified of taking any foreign policy stance that could provoke domestic Islamic radicalization. So what does moral posturing give you when you've got no power? It gives you press releases. It gives you, we condemn this illegal American misadventure. It gives you empty virtue signaling from nations that can't even fill their own recruitment quotes. So one of the solutions here the United States has, VDH, Victor, is actually floating this. Don't necessarily leave NATO. Don't give Russia what it wants. Don't give China what it wants. Don't leave NATO. Just become Canada. Pay like 1.5% of your GDP, show up to the summits, fly the flag, and in the meantime, just build bilateral relationships with nations that actually showed up. Greece, Poland, Czech Republic, Portugal, nations willing to negotiate real partnerships in exchange for real American security guarantees. Because when Trump says NATO disappointed him, he's not throwing a tantrum. He's stating a structural fact about an alliance that is held together at this point almost entirely by American resolve and willpower. And that simply can't hold forever. So, we'll obviously see what happens in both theaters in Iran and NATO. But it does appear that they both share one thing in common. They're both collapsing under the weight of their own internal contradictions. Now, Barbara Boyd from Promethean Action noted this about NATO, and I really firmly agree with her. U.S. participation in NATO is now a dead letter. NATO was never the defense alliance it claimed to be. It was the Praetorian Guard for the empires, forever wars, American blood and treasure, British imperial architecture. That world is over. It's gone. Trump knows exactly who these people are, and he's moving anyway. The petrodollar system, in which the City of London, and listener, I'm interrupting only for people that have never heard me speak about this or anyone else. City of London does not mean the entirety of London. It means a 1 mile square area, the financial district. That is a city-state, a satanic city-state, just like Vatican City, just like Washington, D.C. was. City of London has been the financial epicenter of the entire Earth realm. It has its own laws, its own government, its own mayor. Just to give you a hint of its power, any regent on the throne, King or Queen of England, has to take off their shoes once a year and walk on the red carpet and bow down to the mayor of London, of the City of London, which is different from the mayor of London. The mayor of the City of London, they have to give obeisance to that. Yes. So that's what that is. And like I've spoken about so much, you can go on my YouTube channel and look up the Controller series where I talk about this more in depth. It's a very good series. Vatican City has never been part of Rome, never part of Italy. It's its own satanic city-state. It's always been satanic. And it has its own government, its own laws, blah, 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 blah. It has three popes: the white pope, which is the front man; the gray pope, which is the superpower of really so much over the earth realm. The last one was Pepe Orsini. He's since been let's say put down, to say it politely. And the black pope, which was always the Jesuit general. The Jesuits have always been the military faction, the satanic military faction of the Vatican, protecting that Roman Catholicism, which is only purely satanic. And Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, has never been part of Maryland, never part of the United States. It's been a foreign invasion on American soil. The evils, the satanic evils from the crown and the European banksters used D.C. And the American military to carry out their empire building. And we, the American people, have been for the most part, deaf, dumb, and blind to what has really been going on. But we're awake now. I think many of us are waking up. So that was the triumvirate, the triangle of satanic power of the entire earth realm. That Vatican City, City of London, Washington, D.C. And it's all being scrubbed now. And what isn't scrubbed is being unzipped and exposed for everyone to see. Yeah. Okay, back to this reading. American blood and treasure, British imperial architecture. That world is over. It's gone. Trump knows exactly who these people are, and he's moving anyway. The petrodollar system, in which the City of London and its allies profited from permanent chaos in the Middle East, is over. It's ending. Trump is replacing that with something else entirely. A board of peace, involving all nations in the region, built around economic development. That is not a small thing. That is a civilizational shift. And then, of course, this morning, April 12, 2026, on True Social, on Donald J. Trump's personal account, red check mark on True Social, at Real Donald Trump, he put up, so there you have it. The meeting went well. Most points were agreed to, but the only point that really mattered, and he capitalized this, nuclear, was not. Effective immediately, the United States Navy, the finest in the world, will begin the process of, and he put this in caps, blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz. At some point, we will reach and then he put all this in caps, all being allowed to go in, all being allowed to go out, in quotation marks and caps, basis. But Iran has not allowed that to happen by merely saying, quote, there may be a mine out there somewhere, end quote. This is world, and he put this word in all caps, extortion. And leaders of countries, especially the United States of America, will not be extorted. I have also instructed our Navy to seek and interdict every vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. No one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. We will also begin destroying the mines the Iranians laid in the straits. Any Iranian who fires at us or at peaceful vessels will be, and he capitalized this, blown to hell, exclamation point. Iran knows better than anyone how to, in all caps, end this situation, which has actually devastated their country. Their navy is gone, their air force is gone, their anti-aircraft and radar are useless. Khomeini and most of their, quote, leaders, end quote, are dead, all because of their nuclear ambition. The blockade will begin shortly. Other countries will be involved with this blockade. Iran will not be allowed to profit off this illegal act of, in all caps, extortion. They want money, and more importantly, they want nuclear. Additionally, and at an appropriate moment, we are fully, quote, in all caps, locked and loaded, end quote. And our military will finish up the little that is left of Iran, exclamation point. That was April 12th, 2026 at 8:30 a.m. President Donald J. Trump. And then Eric Doherty on Blue Checkmark account on X said, Donald Trump just stunned the world. Suddenly, oil and gas tankers want to rush to the U.S. to fill up on energy. Look at the Gulf of America, exclamation point. It's almost like 47 had a plan this entire time. And then this is obviously President Trump, a quote from him that Eric is putting in here. Quote, boats are sailing up, heading to our country. Big, beautiful tankers. We're loading them up with oil, gas, and everything else. It's a pretty beautiful thing to see, end quote. And also, Eric is putting up here, now massive amounts of U.S. military transports are surging to the Middle East ahead of President Trump's Iranian blockade. J.D. Vance meant it when he said it was bad news for Iran that peace talks failed. Trump is locked and loaded right now. He has all the leverage. And then there's before that, I should have read this one right before because they were an hour apart that Eric Doherty put up. First, he put up this one. Update. The Iranian regime is furious, now threatening they, quote, won't allow President Trump to naval blockade Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz. Laugh my ass off. LMAO. With what military? Didn't they try firing 100+ missiles at our aircraft carrier and not one struck? Trump FAFO. Shouldn't have tried to strong-arm J.D. Vance in Pakistan, Eric says. And then an announcement here. The blockade is official. The U.S. military announces a naval blockade on the Strait of Hormuz will commence at 10 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, Monday morning, at the direction of President Trump. 47 has all the cards confirmed. CENTCOM says, which is U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM says, the blockade will be enforced impartially against vessels of all nations entering or departing Iranian ports and coastal areas, including all Iranian ports on the Arabian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. CENTCOM forces will not impede freedom of navigation for vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz to and from non-Iranian ports, end quote. Woo, it is on. It is on, listener. Wow, what a juicy time. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate you. And join my YouTube channel. It's pretty fun. I'd never post about things like my lunch, or I try not to. Even though maybe my snacks can be kind of interesting, I still don't do it. I like to close all of my clips with a very short closing prayer, which is in Sanskrit and Telugu. And what I'm saying is, God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Excellent. Peace, peace, peace. What we're all looking forward to in this necessary battle between light and dark. This necessary cleanup is completed. Yes. God bless you and yours. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. I'll see you when I see you. Have a great week. If I don't see you before then. Bye-bye for now.